Thank you very much, Senator Dirup Timal of the NCIC of Trinidad and Tobago, for that generous introduction. I'm aware that I have 15 minutes only, so I'll try to keep within that limitation. My topic is entitled, Is Shakespeare's Macbeth based on a Phagwa legend? So I'm sure you'd find this most interesting. So first we have to start with a theoretical framework, because theory and methodology are important. A lot of people write papers, they present papers at conferences and so on, but they don't have a theory and they don't state their methodology. And in not doing so, their work is really narrative, descriptive. At best, it's an in-depth piece of journalism. It is only when you have a theoretical framework and you have stated your methodology, then your work is scholarly or academic. So I have used a theoretical framework here called intertextuality, which has been popularized by Julia Kristeva, a Bulgarian French literary critic. She contends that individual texts are inescapably related to other texts in a matrix of implicit or explicit allusions, citations, repetitions, transformation, and so on. So the text doesn't really exist in isolation. And what this theory posits is that we can look at writings and compare them to other pieces so that there's a dialogue between and among these literary works. Now, I want to compare Hiranyakashipu and Macbeth in this presentation. There are a lot of similarities, and Phagwa allows us the opportunity to study the legend of Hiranyakashipu and William Shakespeare's Macbeth. And Phagwa allows us the opportunity to meditate deeply on the similarities between the two stories. So these two stories are similar in a lot of ways. The similarities are too peculiar and numerous to dismiss as sheer coincidence. Both Hiranyakashipu and Macbeth were over-ambitious kings who turned into tyrants. They were good guys at first, but they became corrupt and evil. And each of these kings plotted the murder of someone once held dear and close to him. King Hiranyakashipu planned the murder of his own son, Prahalad, his own bloodline, and General Macbeth in the army planned the murder of his king and cousin, Duncan, in order for him to usurp the throne. Hiranyakashipu and Macbeth were both granted a boon of invincibility by supernatural beings. Hiranyakashipu was promised by Lord Brahma that he would not be killed, so he would be invincible, immortal. He would not be killed by man or animal, in the day or night, indoors or outdoors, on earth or in space, or by any weapon. So I'm going to show here a video that really encapsulates this point.
Once Hiranyakashipu performed tap and obtained a boon from Lord Brahma.
May you be killed neither by any weapon, nor by a man or a beast, neither in the day nor in the night, neither on earth nor in the sky, neither inside a house nor outside of it.
This boon made Hiranyakashipu very arrogant.
Good. So Eventually, Hiranyakashipu was slain, and he was slain by an avatar, Narasimha, in the incarnation of a man with a lion's head. So he was not man or animal in the strict sense of the word. And Hiranya was defeated at twilight, which is neither day nor night, on the threshold of a courtyard, which is neither indoors nor outside, on the avatar's lap, which is neither earth nor space, and by fingernails, not a weapon. Macbeth now, he had a boon. Remember, he was a king also. He was assured by witches that he would not be killed by anyone born of woman. And until the forests of Burnham moved to the hill of Dunsinane. And again, a video depicting this point here. Act 4, Scene 1 in Macbeth.
Here's another, more potent than the first.
Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth.
Had I 3 ears, I'd hear thee.
Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man. For none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
Then live Macduff, what need I fear of thee? But yet I'll make assurance double sure and take a bond of fate, thou shalt not live. That I may tell pale-hearted fear, it lies and sleep in spite of thunder. What's this that rises like the issue of a king?
Listen, but speak not to it.
Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great Burnham Wood, to high Dunsinane Hill, shall come against him.
That will never be. Who can impress the forest, bid the tree unfix his earthbound roots? Sweet boatman Scott, rebellious dead, rise never till the wood of Burnham rise.
So, like Hiranyakashipu, Macbeth too was slain. But he was slain by Macduff, who was born by a caesarean section, technically not by a woman. He was killed when soldiers camouflaged themselves with the branches from the forest of Dunsinane. So the forest did indeed move, technically. Now, you may think that I am crazy, I am making up this and so on, but there is a scholar named Fitzgeoff Skeown. He's a respected Swiss philosopher of religion. He also notes the striking similarities between the legends of Hiranyakashipu and Macbeth. In his book, Logic and Transcendence, published in 975, he concludes, and I quote, that Shakespeare took this subject or doctrine for his theme in Macbeth from the legend of Hiranyakashipu. Now, there is another literary critic and literary writer as well, Sesnarayan Prasad, who is Guyanese. In 1996, he published an article entitled The Invisible Saraswati. This article was published in a peer-reviewed journal, and Sesnarayan Prasad contends that nowhere is the Indian influence more remarkable in Shakespeare than in one of his greatest tragedies, Macbeth. So, when we look at the sources and the dates, historical scholars generally agree that the Bhagavad Puran, which contains the Hiranyakashipu Katha, was probably composed around 3100 BCE. And it is believed that Shakespeare wrote the tragedy of Macbeth, commonly called Macbeth, sometime between about 1600. Now, for there to be that connection between these two texts, there ought to be some kind of connection also between India and England. And we all know from history that these two countries were engaged in trade and so on, and there was a lot of influence, economic, political, social, cultural, and literary, between both countries. Europe's most dramatic contact with India was the Greek invasion, starting with the conquest of Alexander the Great in 326 BCE. And we'll all recall that Columbus was looking for a land route, rather a sea route to India when he discovered the West Indies and the Caribbean. So there are other Shakespeare plays that show Indian influence. One of them is King Lear, which is apparently based on an Indian folktale, The King and His Seven Daughters, which I have published in one of my books entitled Caribbean Indian Folktales in 2005. And the introduction of this book is really eye-opening because it documents all that I've been saying about the Indian influence in the folktales and so on. Now, I am doing further research on Indian origins. There is the English nursery rhymes, for instance, called Little Boy Blue, Come Blow Your Horn, The Sheep's in the Meadow, The Cows in the Corn. That's the English nursery rhyme, but it has Indian influence. It's a clear reference to the blue-skinned Lord Krishna as a cowherd blowing his flute. Then there's also the German fairy tale by the Grimm's brothers, published in around 1812, with the story of Rumpelstiltskin, with that secret name. Again, it's a clear reference to the algorithmic, secret Rasi or Rakshi naming of Indian children based on the position of planets at the time of birth. So very interesting interconnections indeed. And so I want to conclude again by drawing upon the theory of intertextuality, which was first formulated by critics such as Ferdinand de Saussure, Mikhail Bakhtin, and Roland Barthes, and later conceptualized by literary critics like Julia Kristeva. I have shown in this presentation that in his play Macbeth, Shakespeare was influenced by the Katha of Hiranyakashipu. He drew from the story, whether indirectly or unconsciously, but was certainly inspired by it.